that. So let's go with this particular application facebook.com and try to locate elements over here. Okay. So first of all, if I want to enter some email ID or mobile number in this particular text box, so I have to locate this element. That is the very first thing you do in case of automation. So what we do right click on it, inspect, and over here you can see this is an input tag with class name. So many class names are there, and then we have dir, autocomplete, username, area invalid, name as email, id as this one, and type as text. So generally, if you have seen in Selenium ID also, Selenium itself, that we go with generally ID or name first of all. Priority is given to that. By.id or by.name. Over here, we are getting name as email, which definitely we can use, because if you see this ID is somewhat looking different and might change. Okay, just by looking, and but based on my experience, I'm saying this ID is looking as a dynamic. When I say dynamic, that means let me just copy this and paste it in a notepad. Okay. And let me refresh the page. And with this again, I'll select this. Yeah. And it's I think same. Okay, let's try to compare. Yeah, it's same. No issues with that. So you can go with ID also. This is the ID and this is the name. So control F, okay, you have to do control F over here. And for ID in case of Xpath, how do you write that? So you have to say double slash, then asterisk sign, and then in brackets you say at the rate ID equals within single quotes control V. So this is your ID and it is identifying one element, one of one. So when you say one of one, that means it's a unique element you have identified. Now what this line says, so double slash basically means relative position. Okay, when we say dot slash, that means it's a absolute position, as in you're going from one location to another location, that way. But when we say double slash, that means we are not starting from the source. Right? We are saying that uh, somewhere in the DOM as in document object model. So when we say somewhere in the DOM, asterisk means any tag name. So if I want to say, I can say input also, no issues, because this is an input tag. So I'm saying somewhere in the document, find a tag with the name as input, having attribute as ID, and the value as this particular one. So that way you are identifying a element that is input tag, that is input, which is nothing but for providing email address or mobile number. So this is how you can locate. Now, if you want to go with name, that is email, you can do that also. Let me just copy this first of all, and paste it over. So this is for Facebook application. Facebook application. Now we'll go with the name. So what I have to do, I just have to make ID as name. So attribute as name and value as email. Okay, value as. So I'll just change it to email. That's it. So that is how you have identified this particular element with the name as email. Got it? And instead of input, the practice is to have star. But in case any other tag is also having email as a attribute, These are not attributes. Okay, name as an attribute and email as the value. So if any other tag is having name as attribute and email as value, in that case this might give you more number of elements or identify more number of elements. So in that case you can directly give, okay, I want to find an input tag which is having name as an attribute and email as a value. Okay, so this is another way of identifying or locating elements. So wherever you find or feel that a particular attribute is there and its value is unique, say for example, dir is also an attribute, and you find that ltr is a value which is unique, so you can say dir also, attribute as dir and value as ltr and enter. But then you can say it's giving 2 of 3. That means this is the second one out of total 3. So there are 3 elements with this particular. But then if you want to say, I'll say and name equals email. In that case, it is 1 of 1. So a tag with dir attribute having value as LTR, and in that same tag attribute name with value email. So if you want to combine two attributes, or you can say if you want to make that tag uniquely, identify uniquely, combining two different attributes, okay, this dir and name. So then in that case you can say and, okay. So combining these and identifying one particular element or locating one particular element uniquely. So this is the case. Instead of and, you can go for or also. What will happen in case of or? In case of or, so it says find the element which is having attribute as dir or attribute name as email. But in this case, see, 1 of 3. So in case of or, what happens? If this condition is also, if this condition is true, it will give all the elements satisfying this particular condition, or you can say matching with this particular area, like having attribute as dir and value as ltr. Okay, so we are getting 3 elements or this. So it will also give elements pertaining to or satisfying this particular condition or value, okay, matching with this particular thing. So or won't be that much useful. Okay, maximum we can go with and, wherein we want to combine two things, okay, two attributes, and then accordingly we have to find the element uniquely. So important portion is to find the element uniquely. That is the most important. So you can go for or also. So I'll just copy this and paste it. Okay. So maximum, as I said, it will be and, which will be more useful compared to. Sure. Now, if we go and understand for CSS, so we have identified an element with ID as this particular value, right? In case of CSS, how to write that part? So let me first of all remove this and I'll say Xpath, and over here I'll say CSS. Okay. So in case of CSS, this particular statement, or I'll say over here CSS, and for this particular statement, what I can say, I can just say hash sign and then the, so this is equivalent to this in CSS. In CSS, if you write hash and the value in front of ID attribute. So hash actually symbolizes ID. It's a kind of a notation in CSS. Okay, you identify the ID attribute with the help of hash sign. You don't have to write all these statements. ID generally is unique. Okay, for elements or tags, you will find that this value of ID or ID attribute value will be unique. There will be very few or less chances that you will find that value is duplicated. Okay. So this is the case for ID. Now the same goes for attribute. Okay. Now over here we have different attribute that is name. For ID I have mentioned hash, but for any attribute like name, dir or any attribute, how to write in CSS, how to write the same in CSS. You can just say uh, what was that input, right? Input is a tag. In square brackets, you just have to say name equals email. This is for any attribute. Okay, so you have to just say the tag name, okay, attribute name, and the value. So for this one, dir1, how you are going to write it? You are going to say input tag having dir as the attribute name and ltr as the value. Okay, input as a tag name, dir is the attribute, and ltr is the value. Clear? Understood this part, guys? यहाँ तक समझ आया? CSS and Xpath basic difference. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet, but we are using for CSS selector. I hope this is clear, guys. Understood? Yes, no, all good. You can unmute yourself and say yes or no. Able to hear me, guys? No problem. Yes, I'll be there.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, able to hear me?
Ah,
Yes,
yes.
Okay, great. So I was just asking whether this is like clear or not. If you are able to understand this question.
yes, clear. Understood.
Chalo. Now this is Xpath and CSS selector basic. Okay. Same goes for your class. Okay. So if you see this HTML ID, okay, let's go. Or we will go with button. Okay, this modern button. We might have different. Okay, some lag in the system. Let me just refresh this page. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. I'll connect with my hotspot. Wi-Fi signal is. You may just get disconnected, okay? You're there, right? Sure. So I'll move to my hotspot. Let's see if the connection is more stable and fast. I'm not sure if the site is slow. The page got loaded. Let me right click and inspect. Fine. So this is a division. Yeah. So if you can see, this is a division having area label as login. Okay. And the class, okay, there are many classes, okay, available over here, and then the role is button, tab index is 0. Okay. What we can do, let's go with any other website wherein the classes are less at least. So this is a demo Blaze website from Blaze Letter. Let me locate this login. So you can see anchor tag is there, class with nav link, and href hash and then ID is logged into. So in case of CSS, if you want to identify element with the help of class name, you just have to say dot and then the class name value, okay, nav link. That's it. But there are two of nine. Okay, so basically, obviously, it symbolizes navigation link. Okay, so there are many navigation links available. So this particular class will be applied on many elements. Okay, for each elements. Okay, so for each element, the same class is there. So obviously, this is not the right way or unique. It is not giving us a unique element. So this is not the right way to identify a particular element. Even if you say tag name also, right? Anchor tag and then nav link. So total eight, one of eight elements are there with the same. But anyways, just want to if you want to understand how to identify element with the class name, you can just keep a note of saying that this actually symbolizes anchor tag, okay, with class name value as nav link. Okay, that is the case. So if you have multiple classes, you just have to separate with dot and dot. So if there is another class name, you can just say dot and another class name, something like this. Okay. Right now we are having one class name. So over here you can see there are multiple classes py5, bg, inverse. So you can say dot py5 and then dot bg inverse. So it will identify that. Okay. So that is for class name, and this is like a export. So these are very important ones. For ID you can just use hash. For elements or attributes other than ID, you can just use tag name, attribute name equals value, and for class name you use tag. And now comes our XPath. So XPath generally is less used in case of automation nowadays. Mostly people are going for CSS selector. And in case of Playwright, we have different locators are also available, strategies available. So people are trying for that. Okay. So let's understand other XPath strategies in Facebook itself. So say for example now we are going and identifying identifying this input tag, and if I want to traverse from this form, okay, say for example this is the entire form and it is having ID as login form, which is unique, again unique, and I want to traverse from here to this particular division and then division so and so, okay, and then reach to this particular input tag. So how can I write that? What I'll do, I'll just right click on this input tag, I'll go to copy and copy export. So copy export is there, copy full export is there. Full export basically will give you the export from source, that is HTML. Okay. And only copy export will give you the export for this particular, and that is related. Let me paste it. So this is the same as we found over here itself. Okay. But in case we want to traverse from this particular form, ID as login form, what we can do is I'll just write it over here itself. Copy this, control F, I'll say double slash form tag and square brackets I'll say at the rate ID equals login form. Okay, square bracket complete. So I have reached to this particular element. And I want to go from this form to this division. So I'll say slash div. Okay, because there is only one div, probably in form there is only one div, so I'm just writing div. Okay, now inside this div again there are many divs, like two divs are there. This is starting tag and this is ending tag. In between I can find two divs, but I want to go in the very first div. So what I'll say slash div of one. So now I have reached to this particular location. If I would have mentioned 2, then I would be reaching to this particular position. Okay, that's it. So this one inside square brackets represents the position. Now inside this div, let's see if I have, okay, there is only one division, so I can just say slash. So I reached to this particular position. And from here again there is one div, so I'll say slash div, then two, three, so there is again one div. So slash div reduced over here. Again one div. So slash div reduced this portion. But we don't have to go to title, right? This is important. So we have login. Let's get it. Yeah, so this is the one, right? So then we have to go for div and then input. Slash div slash input. This one div. I believe somewhere we have made a mistake in the division. But anyways, what I wanted to try to make you understand is like if you want to traverse from one particular tag to another tag, you can go with this slash sign. Okay. So we have identified the very first tag with the help of attribute ID with login form as a value, and from there I'm traversing to another tag. So now it identified. Okay, it's a little bit slow. So one of five. Some miss. So from this particular tag, I'm traversing to division, and then I'm reaching to this particular input. Okay. So this is how you can traverse from one tag to another tag. I'll close this and try to use store this one because this is lightweight. Now say for example over here I have identified anchor tag with the attribute ID equals login to, right? This is we have identified this particular element login. Now if I want to move to like this particular tag UN tag, right now what we have seen, we are traversing in a downwards direction, okay, in a forward direction. If you want to traverse in a reverse direction, how can we do that? In case of Xpath, it's not possible in case of CSS to move in a reverse direction, but in case of Xpath, how can we do that? So in case of CSS, what we can say is what we can say that okay, there is a relationship between anchor tag and UL. What is that? This li is the parent of anchor tag because it is this anchor tag is coming beneath or under li tag. So anchor tag is child of li and li becomes parent. Similar case with ul. Ul and li both are parent and child. So if you want to set a relationship between anchor tag and ul, what will be the relationship? Li is a parent of anchor tag. Ul is parent of li. So ul is nothing but ancestor of anchor tag. Right? It's an ancestor of anchor tag. Right. So what I'll say double slash or single slash. I'll say ancestor, sister, okay, colon UL. Okay. See, I have reached to that particular UL tag from anchor tag with the help of this access. Okay, this is called as access AXES. So I have traversed from this particular tag directly to this particular UL. Similarly, we will understand other what to say access the relationship how to use it. Now, say for example, UL, I want to reach to a particular. Um, you can say instead of ancestor, I'll say. Let me just first copy this. And this is for demo. Let's say. Demo, so now instead of ancestor, what I'll say parent, and instead of UL, I'll say LI. Okay. So it reached to this particular LI tag because it's a parent. Right? Now from that LI, I want to reach to this LI. Okay, I want to reach to this LI because there is no relationship between anchor tag and this particular LI tag, right? So what I have done, I have from this anchor tag, I have reached to this LI based on parent. Now this LI and these LI both all are at the same level. All are child elements of UL. Okay. All li tags are child elements of UL tag. So they are nothing but sibling. Okay. All the li tags have one single parent. So they all are child element child elements of UL tag. So all are siblings to each other. So from one sibling I want to go to another sibling. But then this is a preceding one. ओके ये पहले आया था और उसके बाद ये आया था मुझे यहाँ से अगर यहाँ जाना होता तो आई हैव टू यूज फॉलोइंग सिबलिंग बट मुझे यहाँ से यहाँ जाना है तो प्रीसीडिंग सिबलिंग सो आई हैव टू यूज दैट स्टेटमेंट सो आई विल से प्रीसीडिंग हाइफन sibling colon li. See, I reached to that particular first li. Okay. So this is how you can move from one level to another level with the help of Xpath. So Xpath सबसे ज़्यादा मैक्सिमम काम में यहाँ पे आता है जब आपको ट्रैवर्स करना है बट यही इसका डिसएडवांटेज भी होता है डिसएडवांटेज क्या है व्हाट इज द डिसएडवांटेज डिसएडवांटेज इज दैट अगर कभी भी कुछ एलिमेंट्स बीच में अगर आ जाते हैं कोई नया एलिमेंट कोई लिंक ऐड कर दी कोई बटन ऐड कर दिया तो ये एक्सपाथ आपका ब्रेक हो जाएगा इट वोंट वर्क राइट
तो सबसे सेफेस्ट कौन सा है सर
safest is Xpath, oh sorry, CSS
Okay.
faster than Xpath and more useful. And अभी playwright में बाकी जितने अगर options are there, they are also good. But yeah, Xpath आप use कर सकते हो ऐसा नहीं है कि नहीं use कर सकते but comparative to CSS it is slower. वो slow ऐसा भी नहीं कि आपको बहुत ज़्यादा like 1 मिनट या 2 मिनट का difference दिखेगा. बट हाँ पेज लोड होता है और जो कोड आपका पेज के साथ इंटरेक्शन करता है वहाँ पे वो स्लोनेस अफेक्ट कर सकती है। तो मेनी टाइम्स अगर आप एक्सपार्ट यूज़ करोगे तो आपके टेस्ट फेल होंगे, टाइम आउट एक्सेप्शन आ जाएंगे। लेकिन सेम गोज फॉर सी एस एस फास्ट लोड होता है। जैसे आपका पेज या डॉम ये डॉम लोड होता है ना, सबसे पहले ये क्लास और सी एस एस लोड होते हैं, इसलिए दैट इज कंपैरेटिवली कॉल्ड एज फास्टर।
Okay.
चलो बट यहाँ पे भी अगर आप देखो तो यहाँ पे 1 of 4 आ रहा है तो यूनिक नहीं है। तो वो इफ आई वांट टू मेक इट यूनिक आई कैन जस्ट से 1। तो ये पोजीशन वाला वन है बिकॉज प्रेसिडिंग सिबलिंग यहाँ से पहला पोजीशन ये है। अगर यहाँ जाना है तो 4 लिखना है, जस्ट आपको से 4। तो ये 1 of 1 आना, ये इंपॉर्टेंट पोर्शन है, 1 of 1 आना चाहिए, यूनिक है। So just copy this or instead of this सो आप फॉलोइंग सिबलिंग भी लिख सकते हो, प्रीसीडिंग सिबलिंग। जैसे यहाँ से मुझे अगर ट्रैवर्स करना है नीचे तो जैसे फॉलोइंग सिबलिंग कोलन कोलन, तो उसके जस्ट नेक्स्ट वाला सिबलिंग। बट इसके बहुत सारे ऐसे हैं, टोटल 7 आते हैं, तो जस्ट पहला वाला ही करना है। तो यहाँ पे मुझे 1 of 1 दिखा है, राइट। तो ऐसे आपके प्रीसीडिंग सिबलिंग है, फॉलोइंग सिबलिंग है, एंसेस्टर है, पेरेंट है, चाइल्ड है, तो दे ऑल आर कॉल्ड एज एक्सेस। सो व्हाट आर दोस? जस्ट राइट इट डाउन। सो यू हैव पेरेंट, चाइल्ड, ancestor, and you have descendant यानी अगर समझो ये आपका ड्यूअल इज पेरेंट है, जहाँ से मुझे एंकर टैग पे जाना है तो ये एंकर टैग डिसेंडेंट हो गया ड्यूअल के लिए। तो ड्यूअल से मुझे एंकर टैग पे जाना है तो आई हैव टू से डिसेंडेंट, एंड डिसेंडेंट कोलन कोलन ए टैग डिसेंडेंट। and you have following sibling, then you have preceding sibling. Okay. Yeah, these many are there. Okay, so this is all possible in case of Xpath, not in case of CSS. CSS में अगर आपको जाना है, राइट, तो हमें ऐसा कुछ अगर ब्रांड देखते हैं, लेट्स सी इफ इट इज यूनिक। Yeah, it's 1 of 1, right? So anchor tag with class name as neighbor brand, okay, that is unique, so it is identified as 1 of 1। तो ये मैं यहाँ पे पहुँच गया। अब मुझे यहाँ से इमेज पे चलाना है। Image is nothing but a child element of anchor। I'll just say space and then I'll say image. So see, I reach to that particular image. So you can give space if it is just next, okay, just direct, or you can use arrow sign and then you can say image. Okay, that is also perfectly fine. So I'll just copy this and paste it over. So this is for traversing in case of CSS। आपको किसी एक पर्टिकुलर टैग से दूसरे टैग या चाइल्ड टैग पे, आई वुड से चाइल्ड टैग पे जाना, you have to use arrow or you can directly mention without arrow if it is just next child। okay, पहला चाइल्ड है उस पे जाना है। और अगर समझो nth चाइल्ड पे जाना है, पोजीशन जैसे यूएल है, let me try with this this one। Paste। So again it is 1 of 1। You can see UL tag having neighbor name ML auto, this is 1 of 1। okay, तो आप यहाँ पे पहुँच गए। अब यहाँ से आपको स्पेसिफिक कोई list पे जाना है, li पे थर्ड पे जाना है, say for example. In that case, you will say li, okay, colon and child in brackets 3. So it is identifying me or giving me 101, which is this one. I don't know why this is written highlighted in orange, but अगर आप यहाँ पे देखोगे, इस पर क्लिक किया तो ये यहाँ पे ही आ रहा है blue से ना. So you have reached to that particular element. Okay. तो UL with these two classes, so मैंने दो बार यूज किया डॉट नेबर नेम डॉट ml ऑटो. तो ये दो अलग क्लासेस है, स्पेस है, यहाँ पे मैंने डॉट यूज किया और क्लास, और फिर वहाँ से मुझे स्पेसिफिक एल आई पे जाना है तो मैं एल आई लिखूंगा, लेकिन उसकी पोजीशन चाइल्ड पोजीशन क्या है 3. आई विल से एंड चाइल्ड. दिस इज to that. So you can go downwards only, not upwards, in upwards direction. Okay. डाउनवर्ड्स डायरेक्शन में ही आप जा सकते हो, अपवर्ड्स डायरेक्शन में CSS में नहीं जा सकते. That is not possible. तो अगर आपको ट्रैवर्सिंग करना है ज़्यादा तो आप Xpath ले सकते हो, otherwise CSS is perfectly fine. So this is all about Xpath and CSS selector. इसमें फिर नॉर्मलाइज भी आता है और स्टार्ट्स होता है, वो भी आता है. लेट मी जस्ट ट्राई टू राइट इट ओवर हियर. सो इफ आई से लाइक ईमेल आईडी करके, अगर से फॉर एग्जांपल ईमेल आईडी रहता नेम है, नेम एट्रीब्यूट है, उसकी वैल्यू ईमेल आईडी करके है, राइट, ईमेल आईडी से फॉर एग्जांपल. तो मुझे आइडेंटिफाई करना होता है स्टार्ट्स विद ईमेल, एनी नेम एट्रीब्यूट व्हिच इज स्टार्टिंग विद ईमेल, that should be identified. So how should I written? So I will say starts with, okay, ब्रैकेट में एट द रेट तो रहेगा ही नेम, ओके, और इक्वल्स के बदले यहाँ पे कॉमा आ जाएगा ब्रैकेट के अंदर. तो आई एम सेइंग स्टार्ट्स विद इन ब्रैकेट attribute and the value which is starting with. So name attribute starting with email should be identified. Okay. Similar to this, we have contains. So I'll say copy, paste, and I'll say contains. So what contains says any attribute with any attribute, sorry, not any attribute, any tag with name attribute having email as one of the value. जैसे यहाँ पे email ID में contain है, it contains. I can say ID also here. So it contains whether email ID is contained or part of it. Substring आप बोल सकते हो contains. जबकि starts में पहला जो word होगा उससे start जो भी हो रहा है, email से start जो भी हो रहा है वो लेके आओ. जबकि इसमें मैं ऐसा बोलता हूँ कि भाई ID अगर contain करता है as part of name attribute, if ID is anywhere in that value, bring that or identify that. So that starts with an contains. In case of CSS, how do you write starts with an contains? That I just showed you. In case of CSS, I'd say starts with will be mentioned this way. The carrots. So this is called as carrots name, and you can say okay, input is the tag name, having dir is the attribute name, starting with LTR. So this is for starting. And for contents, in case of CSS, you can write asterisk sign, asterisk sign for contents. ठीक है, ये नोटेशंस मैंने आपको Xpath और CSS दोनों पे बता दिया. I hope this is clear. Understood this portion.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. So, now we'll just go through the locators in case of playwright. So these are the locators in case of playwright, okay, which I have mentioned you last time also. So that is get by role to locate explicit and implicit accessibility attributes. So get by role क्या होता है, जैसे कोई बटन है और उस सबमिट बटन है, तो रोल क्या है उसका, बटन इज द रोल है ना. जैसे चेकबॉक्स है, कोई चेकबॉक्स है उसका नाम है प्राइस या फिर जो भी ईमेल आईडी व्हाटएवर. So that role is checkbox. Radio button is a role. Drop down या फिर list is a role. है ना, वो एक्शन क्या करता है, वो एलिमेंट क्या है, तो दैट इज रोल, गेट बाय रोल. और फिर उसका नाम लिखना है आपको, जो भी नाम दे रखा है. तो अगर आप यहाँ पे एग्जांपल दे रखे हैं इन लोगों ने, विल गो विद दैट ओनली. सो समझो एक वेबसाइट है, उसका साइन इन बटन है और उसका एक्सएमएल टैग इस तरह से है. So button is the tag name, sign in is the value. So what will say page dot get by role button. So button is the role name. Get by role name, button is the role name. And in curly braces you are giving the name. Name is nothing but this, sign in is the name. And then you have to perform the click action. इसी तरह से चेकबॉक्स है उसके लिए भी, जैसे यहाँ पे देखो अगर आप, तो ये साइन अप क्या है, साइन अप इज अ हेडिंग, राइट. H3 ये हेडिंग है. तो यहाँ पे क्या लिखा है, गेट बाय रोल, इट्स अ हेडिंग नेम. द रोल इज हेडिंग एंड व्हाट इज द नेम, साइन अप. तो वो यहाँ पे नेम आ गया आपका साइन कर्ली ब्रेसेस के अंदर. एंड देन we are expecting that particular element is visible or not. Similarly, this is a checkbox having the name as subscribe. So I will say get by role checkbox and the name is subscribe. Similarly for button and the name is submit. See, this notation is different to compare to this one. यहाँ पे ये regular expression use किया है, जहाँ पे हम बोल रहे हैं कि भाई it may have anything before or after and then something like that. So it's notation of regular expression. Okay. Then locate by label. So label as in this will be the tag name. अगर आपको कहीं पे भी label दिख रहा है as a tag name, आप get by label use कर सकते हो. Page dot get by label. And what is the label? Label value is password. So directly in password. So make sure वो आपको देखना रहेगा कि लेबल एट्रीब्यूट, सॉरी लेबल टैग नेम कहीं और भी है, और अगर है तो उसमें पासवर्ड शुड नॉट बी द लेबल. जनरली नहीं होगा, बिकॉज ये लेबल कौन से होते हैं, दीज आर द लेबल्स, राइट. जैसे साइन अप की जगह तो यूजर नेम लेबल है, पासवर्ड लेबल है. तो अगर मैं यहाँ पे चाहूँगा राइट क्लिक करूँगा, इंसर्ट, so this password is having a label. To get by label I will use for password. Okay, that. So you can fill input after locating input the label text. So label and fill whatever. So that will be identified because जो label के अंदर आपका ये input tag रहेगा. Locate by placeholder. So again, placeholder is nothing but an attribute. Okay, placeholder is nothing but an attribute. So if you find any element having placeholder as one of the attribute, you can directly say page dot get by placeholder, and then whatever be the value, that value you have to pass over. Quite simple to understand, right? Label is nothing but a tag name, placeholder is an attribute, get by role name, whatever the role name is there. Locate by text. So this is the text span welcome John. So span is the tag name, whereas welcome John is the text. So I'd say get by text welcome John. Now this welcome John generally when it comes when a user logs in, so it says welcome and then username. So this will be unique across the entire page. There won't be multiple welcome messages or text. So in that case you can use get by text and then the text. Okay. अगर आपको एग्जैक्ट मैच रखना है तो यहाँ पे लिखे गेट बाय टेक्स्ट देन द टेक्स्ट इन and in curly braces you have to say exact. So whatever you write in curly braces, that is nothing but optional. That is optional. This is with the help of regular expression. Located by alt text. So alt text generally is on images, whereas an alternate name is given. So all images should have an alt attributes that describe the image. So you have image tag having alt alternate name, that is playwright logo. This is a playwright logo. Okay. So you can say get by alt text and then this is the value. The placeholder label text with the alt text, इन सब में आपको बहुत स्पेसिफिक केस में ही जाना है. जहाँ पे आप प्लेस होल्डर मिल रहा है, जहाँ पे लेबल टैग नेम है, तो जहाँ पे ऑल्ट एज अ एट्रीब्यूट है, वहाँ पे आपको वो स्पेसिफिक यूज करना है. ठीक है, तो बहुत स्पेसिफिक केस में आपको ये सब दे रहे हैं, क्योंकि जो ऑल्ट जो अल्टरनेट नेम होगा वो भी यूनिक रहता है हर इमेज के लिए. तो प्लेराइट वाइज हैव गिवन यू दैट ऑप्शन आल्सो. Then locate by title. So if you have a tag name having title as an attribute, okay, title again is an attribute. So you can say get by title and whatever be the value that you can pass. So get by title, get by all, get by placeholder, all these are nothing but attributes. Get by test ID, again this is an attribute. So data test ID. So data test ID. So ये बहुत ही specific case में ही सब use होंगे, right? अगर गेट बाय अगर डेटा टेस्ट आईडी है तो वहाँ पे आप फिर गेट बाय ऑल टेक्स्ट नहीं यूज़ कर पाओगे. जहाँ पे भी आपको ये मिल रहा है वहाँ पे आप स्पेसिफिक गेट बाय टेस्ट आईडी मेंशन कर सकते हैं. फिर वहाँ पे एक्सपाथ या CSS के लिए भी जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है आपको. तो यू कैन जस्ट से गेट बाय टेस्ट आईडी एंड देन द वैल्यू. वेरी सिंपल टू अंडरस्टैंड. Locate by CSS or XPath, so you just have to say page.locator or whatever be the CSS, whatever be the XPath, you just have to either you can say CSS equals and then the CSS and the XPath equals and then the XPath, or you can directly copy the CSS, copy the XPath. See, दोनों ऑप्शन दे रखे हैं. ये अगर ओमिट भी करते हो CSS equal to XPath equals तो भी perfectly fine. Using this, ये हमने कल इस तरह से यूज किया था. So XPath and CSS letters can be tied to the DOM structure or implementation. These letters can break when the DOM structure changes. That is what I told you, right? जब भी DOM structure change होगा, कोई भी डेवलपर कुछ नया एलिमेंट ऐड करता है, एलिमेंट कुछ भी हो सकता है, ड्रॉप डाउन, बटन, लिंक, इमेज, एनीथिंग. In that case, आपका वो CSS या XPath शायद ना काम करे. It may be the case. तो वहाँ पे आपको वो सारे काम करेंगे. So long CSS or XPath change below an example of bad practice. So यहाँ पे देखो इस तरह का अगर CSS आप बना रहे हो, यहाँ से आपने हैश TSF मतलब ID है TSF, उसके बाद आप एक स्पेसिफिक डिवीजन पे गए, फिर डिवीजन पे गए, फिर ऐसे ऐसे करते गए इनपुट पे, अब इसके बीच में कहीं पे भी मैंने एक ऐड कर दिया कोई एलिमेंट, डेवलपर ने ऐड कर दिया, ये आपका ब्रेक हो जाएगा। राइट, सेम गोज फॉर XPath. So this XPath will break. You will get exception that element is not visible. So, but अगर छोटे हैं, डायरेक्ट स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड है, then you can directly go for CSS or XPath. No worries. शैडो डाउन विल अंडरस्टैंड लेटर ऑन। शैडो डाउन में कुछ है नहीं। अब आपको अगर इस तरह से शैडो रूट, अगर आपके एक्सटर्नल डॉम में इस तरह से शैडो रूट मिलता है, सेलेनियम में दिस वाज क्वाइट ट्रिकी। ओके, बट प्लेराइट जो है शैडो रूट को ट्रैवर्स कर लेता है विदाउट एनी प्रॉब्लम। सो यू कैन डायरेक्टली यूज, जैसे ये डिवीजन है वो शैडो रूट के अंदर है। ओके, तो अगर आप डायरेक्टली लिखो आईडी इनर डिटेल्स, ओके, तो गेट बाय टेक्स्ट, जैसे डिटेल्स ये टेक्स्ट है, सो गेट बाय टेक्स्ट डिटेल्स लिखा तो इट विल ट्रैवर्स टू द शैडो रूट एंड इट विल क्लिक ऑन दैट पर्टिकुलर एलिमेंट, नो वरीज इन दैट। बट यही चीज़ सेलेनियम में इट वाज ट्रिकी। यू हैव टू गो टू द शैडो रूट एलिमेंट, जैसे ये टाइटल है, यहाँ पे जाना पड़ता है, फिर वहाँ से आपको ट्रैवर्स होकर यहाँ पे आना पड़ता है, फिर आप क्लिक कर सकते हैं। Shadow root was difficult in, not difficult I would, but tricky I would say, in Selenium. But in case of playwright, shadow root can be, you can say peers, okay? So locating by XPath does not play shadow roots. Okay. And closed mode shadow roots are not supported. So see shadow root लिखा होगा, उसके बाद में open लिखा होगा। अगर ओपन लिखा है तभी आप ट्रैवर्स कर सकते हो। अगर शैडो रूट के साइड में क्लोज लिखा है तो आप ट्रैवर्स नहीं कर सकते, क्लियर्स नहीं कर सकते। दिस इज अबाउट शैडो रूट्स। filter and all those things are different, so अभी हम will stick to this particular locators, different types of locators. So go through these locators, okay? मल्टीपल टाइम्स आप इसको यूज़ करोगे तो ये सब याद हो जाएगा, और वैसे भी आप पेज डॉट करोगे तो ये सारे ऑप्शंस आपको मिलेंगे। तो जैसे जैसे आप प्रैक्टिस करोगे, वेबसाइट्स के साथ इंटरेक्शन करोगे, दीज विल बी टू से लाइक ईजी टू रिमेंबर। ओके, आप इसको याद रख पाओगे। अभी ऐसे सोचोगे कि सब याद रखना तो थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट होगा, बट जैसे जैसे यूज़ करोगे हो जाएगा। ठीक है, यहाँ तक रखते हैं गाइस।